Good morning. My name is Noemi de Guzman, and on behalf of Pastor Theresa Soto, worship producer Vincent Rains, my colleagues on the Journey Toward Wholeness Antiracism Transformation Team, and others, welcome to worship with First Unitarian Church of Oakland. We ask that you please turn off your video while we light our chalice and candles. This will allow people to better see the words on the screen and follow along. Please note that we are recording this service, so if you don't wish to be in the recording, please keep your camera turned off. For best viewing experience, we recommend that you make certain you have the latest version of the Zoom app on your computer. We are an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. You are welcome here. We invite you to fill out the guest connection card that you will see in the chat. We want to be able to support your exploration of what's available in our community that interests you and how you might participate. Welcome. Before we begin our worship service, we remind you of invitations issued through the Chalice Chatter newsletter to put our Unitarian Universalist faith into action. The first invitation is to join congregants Amy Carlson and Claudine Tong, who have been meeting for half an hour every Tuesday to make phone calls to free people from ICE detention. Join at 11 a.m. on any or all of the Tuesdays in April, and Claudine and Amy will be there for you with a centering experience and lots of encouragement. Second, you are invited to demonstrate your care and to weigh in on solutions for affordable housing, public transit for persons with disabilities, and disrupting the school to prison pipeline. Turn up for justice this Thursday at 6:30 p.m. with our community organizational partner, Genesis. Our third reminder is about another distinguishing element of our UU faith, covenantal relationships. In 3 short weeks, on April 25 at 4 p.m., we will conduct the sacred ritual of installing Pastor Theresa as our lead minister and celebrate the promises we make to each other. This unique event will combine the service and reception into one experience, allowing us to express and strengthen our commitments to each other while sharing some treats. Let's all be there. This is a celebration for the entire community. Vince will share a save the date in the chat if you'd like to print out a reminder. For additional info about all of these events and others, Vince will put the link to our online calendar and the email address to request Zoom details in the chat at the end of worship service. Now today, Journey Toward Wholeness will host the monthly First Sunday Anti-Racism discussion and practice for another opportunity to exercise our appreciation, compassion, and interconnectedness. We hope you'll join us 15 minutes after worship service. Vince also will put the link in the chat at the end of worship.
Thank you so much, Noemi. If you forget any of that, you just go right to the website and you'll see it on there towards the bottom. You can also always just write to yes, please, and you'll get links and dates and times back. Are you ready to light the chalice? These candles we light as reminders. We're the fuel for the candle. We're the energy for the moment. But we also do this ritual to embody what we hold. We light this chalice today, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, in part as celebration of COVID-19 vaccines that bring us closer to being together in person. And we commit to health, and safety for everyone, leaving no one behind. We light also a Black Lives Matter candle each week. We light this candle in recognition of the Black Lives Matter movement and in recognition of the systemic racism that tries to deny the full humanity of Black people. And we commit to dismantling this supremacy with daily action. Today, this week, I am going to light yet a third candle, and I'd like to tell you now why. As our nation watches the trial of Derek Chauvin for the murder of George Floyd, as we watch anti-Asian violence on the rise, we light another candle. Very often, before we have a chance to mourn one violent slaying, another one happens. Today, we light an additional candle in resistance as an unequivocal statement for peace. Darnella Frazier, the teenager who recorded the video of George Floyd being killed, testified. She talked about staying up at night, apologizing to George Floyd for not physically doing more to save his life. With Darnella's burden on our hearts, that as a community witnessing this tide of violence rising, we have more to do. We have more peace to bring. We have more peace to be and to become. Amen. We begin today with a reading, Season of Stone Rolling, adapted from Reverend William L. Wallace. Thank you, Donna.
Easter is the season of stone rolling, rolling away guilt, fear, hatred, monotony, lifelessness, and blandness. In the evolution of humanity, stones were the first of many things. First weapon, first tool, first building block, first barrier, and that is how we understand it still. Today, we invite you to listen and feel for ways that you can roll away the stones that are holding you down or blocking your path. Rolling away the stone is saying no to what could be an ending, embracing it as a kind of plot twist, and allowing a new possibility to take its place. As we come today to these symbols and stories, it is not our beliefs about what happened in history that transform us, but the extent to which we allow these glimpses into community and being reanimated by love to energize our lives. How many times have we sought to bury the possibilities again for fear of what they might do to our predictable grayness? All risings of the human spirit are preceded by brokenness, loss, or rejection. Those things are real, and yet they are not the end of the story. When we invite the barrier breaking, stone shattering spirit of Easter into our lives, our struggle and impossibility recede into the background, and we are left walking hand in hand with the unknowable. Resurrection is beauty appreciated, love shared, justice implemented. Resurrection is about seeing behind and beyond death, ugliness, injustice, pain, and despair. Join us in this exploration. And now Crescendo Choir will sing My Lord, What a Morning. Now we will unmute our microphones and greet our neighbors.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning.
morning.
Good
Morning.
Happy
Morning.
Happy
Thank
Jesus
Morning.
Day.
Everybody.
Wow.
Good morning, Ingrid.
Oh,
morning, everybody.
Good. Hi, Judith.
Charlotte, love what's on your head.
Morning, Helen.
Violet.
Happy
Easter bunny.
Ingrid.
Hi, Marcy.
Happy Easter.
Helen.
Helen.
Happy lovely.
Morning, Dick.
Barbara.
Oh, hi.
Claudine. Hi, Anthony.
And Marcy.
Kaylin.
Oh,
Hi,
there.
Mary Jane.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Morning, Leslie. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Kaylin.
Thank you, everyone, for greeting one another. Let's go ahead and mute our microphones again and listen to this story from our interim Director of Religious Education, Alex Hayter-Winnett.
Good morning, beloved community. It is nice to be with you today. I'd like to wish you all a very happy Easter and a wonderful end to Passover. Now, Easter and Passover may be similar in a lot of ways, but they are not the same, and it is important that we do not directly tie the two together because they are both unique holidays. And the use of Passover, the freeing of the Jews from enslavement, has been used to justify Easter, the resurrection of Jesus, in problematic and anti-Semitic ways. So I'm going to attempt not to make those connections very strong, but I do want to say that both holidays have a lot to do with freedom. Freedom of our bodies, of our spirits, of our minds. And so I'm asking you today, what are you hoping to be freed from? What is holding you back? What are you hoping to rid yourself of in this time of spring, of new life and rebirth? Maybe it's fear of the unknown. Maybe you're hoping that we can reunite soon in person and you'll be freed from a bit of loneliness. Maybe you're hoping to be freed from racism or sexism or homophobia. Maybe you just want to be able to go for a walk in peace. So what are you hoping for? What are you hoping to be freed from? In the Passover story, in the Seder, it's conversation about Moses freeing the Israelites, taking them into the desert to wander. It took a long time because those who had been enslaved would not be able to enter into the promised land. It's a hard story to tell sometimes. And then in the Christian tradition, Jesus was arrested, killed by the state, buried, and in 3 days his body rose. And I really like the story that Sophia Lyon-Fahs, one of our ancestors and theologians in the Unitarian tradition, told about how there were people who loved Jesus so much. They saw him. They believed he walked among them. And I know that I sometimes can summon people that I haven't seen in years, either because they moved away or had died. And there's a certain amount of freedom in knowing that I can think back to someone I haven't talked to in years and think, well, what would they tell me? What would they do right now? Be able to imagine their hug, their caring voice, the sound of their laughter. There's freedom in knowing they're not completely gone because they're still in my heart. So, in this time of Passover and Easter, I wish you all love and liberation. Define that love heals and mends, that liberation is available even when we struggle and wander, and that we as a community will keep doing the hard work of keeping each other safe. All my best. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Alex. My name is Janet McFarland. I'm a member of the Journey Toward Wholeness transformation team. And this morning, I'm offering you a reflection. May you find some comfort and value from it. Thank you. Yesterday, I took a spiritual journey with some friends to walk the labyrinth in Sibley. That's the image that you see behind me. That could be me in the middle. It's not, but it could be. We had planned a ritual to bless one another, to witness one another, to bless the thing that we wished to carry into the center of the labyrinth and to leave there and to bless something new that we were bringing to life. We are always becoming. I started to write about that little trip when I started to work on this reflection on becoming, on change. But it brought me back to the place of my return a year ago, almost exactly, from a once-in-a-lifetime spiritual journey to the top of the world, to the Himalayas in Nepal. I had sought to reset my direction in life, my foundation, as I entered my new retirement. I went armed with a stone that one of these same friends gave me, engraved with the word trust on it. I carried it in my pocket. I conspired with the Expedia agent to find me a flight that did not go through China, as those flights were already being canceled. I sought to slip through the doors as they were closing and flew into the wave of a shutdown, all unaware. I did not take any masks. 3 weeks later, I desperately scrambled to claw those doors open again so that I could return home. I flew through empty airports on empty airplanes, took an empty BART train, took the last Uber, it seemed like, in the world. My son didn't feel he could come to the airport and pick me up, possibly exposing his family to COVID-19, our new reality. At home, my housemate embraced me desperately. After 2 weeks of lockdown, she was feeling very, very lonely and possibly scared. Then we retreated to our separate quarantines. I emerged 2 weeks later to a world emptied of cars, buses, planes, trucks, people, BART trains. It was so quiet. But I don't remember the singing of the birds, which is so strong this year. They must have been singing, but I don't remember them. The wisteria and plums must have bloomed as extravagantly, but I do not remember them. We were living with fear, even terror. What was safe? Could we go to the grocery store? Should we wipe everything down? People, it has been a hard year. We saw deaths in nursing homes, in homeless shelters, in prisons and jails, at the border. We saw children separated from their parents, taken from their arms. Then George Floyd died, followed by demonstrations, an apocalyptic fire season, a disturbing election, an assault on the Capitol, an impeachment, the start of a hopeful and sane new administration, a backlash of attacks on voters' rights, a mass murder of Asian Americans. It has been a hard reset. I should be more careful when I ask for things, although I can't really take it personally. This has been a worldwide experience. We have found ways to protest. We wrote postcards, we made phone calls, we made masks. We learned to move our communities to Zoom. We created new ways to live and to find joy. We found the preciousness of air, of breath, of community, of singing together. We searched our souls about safety and who gets to be safe, about health, about equity, about the fragility of our democracy. At the labyrinth, I carried my token and I left it in the center. I took my new hope and put it in my pocket and carried it with my friends to my car and home. Amen and Ashe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet. Take a couple of easy breaths if that relaxes you. If it doesn't, think of your centering practice. Come to this moment. Come to the room that you're in. Come to the miles between us. Go ahead, and if you're able, willing, put a hand gently over your heart. We are connected to one another. Allow that to arrive at your heart. Let the moment in this moment flow. Say to yourself silently, I will love myself. I will love others. And that love will heal the world. In a moment, instead of speaking out loud today, we will put our concerns, our joys in the chat. and we'll listen to a piece of music together while we do so. After the music is over, we'll come back together and we'll witness that we hold these in our care.
I'm becoming. I am all I have done. I am what I am dreaming. I've only just begun. I am who I'm becoming. I am all I have done. I am what I am dreaming. I've only just begun. You are who you're becoming. You are all you have done. You are what you are dreaming. You've only just begun. You are who you're becoming. You are all you have done. You are what you are dreaming. You've only just begun. We are who we're becoming. We are all we have done. We are what we are dreaming. We've only just begun. We are who we're becoming. We are all we have done. We are what we are dreaming. We've only just begun. We've only just begun.
Thank you, everyone, for putting your joys and sorrows in the chat. There are many. We do hold them in our care. Go ahead and with me, breathe in, if that's your ability. Today I'm thinking about good news. How good news arrives. You still get good mail in your mailbox? I'm thinking about email that may arrive. Good news. What are the other ways we get good news? There are many. In the book of Proverbs, which is sort of in the middle of our collection of what is the Christian Bible, there are books of wisdom. And they include this wisdom from King Solomon. He says this. Just a moment while I tell you what he says. Like a cool drink of water when you're worn out and weary is a letter from a long lost friend. That book is supposed to be full of practical insight, but some of the time he just talks about being a person. What is the good news of Easter? The Christian backstory includes the acclaim of a king and his execution by the state. And somewhere in there is the understanding that we can be brought back to life by love, which resonates without hesitation in the idea that it is spring and that the world itself is waking up and coming back to life. Which news of liberation from bondage, a fresh start and new beginnings is also present in the celebration of Passover, which is not the same thing and arises entirely from its own tradition. Sometimes Passover and Easter are close together on the calendar. This is one of those years. And there is more that fits into the space of time by which people have made meaning and understood how to live life with intention. Yesterday, we had a beautiful opportunity to talk about the history of this congregation with Reverends Rob and Jan Eller Isaacs. One of the things that we talked about is the mythology surrounding their ministry, especially the idea that Reverend Rob was sent here to close the church. The truth has a little more detail than that. It was more like if the church had not decided to grow or to take responsibility for its relationships and impact in the city of Oakland, then it might have closed. It's important to distinguish that good news because in the ministry before the Reverend Eller Isaacs, the same thought of closing was on the table. You've been to one of those stores before. They're having a going out of business sale, but they're having it for years and years and years. You are not going out of business. You are not going out of business. You are not going out of business. This is in part because you were made for this moment. If the church has in its history the time when love brought you back to life, let that knowing guide you in this moment. Sometimes, though, it's not just about knowing our past that makes a difference. It's understanding the impact of those connections. Lil Nas X is a hip hop artist, and he made history in 2019 when he and Billy Ray Cyrus remix of Lil Nas X's song Old Town Road became the longest running #1 song in the history of the Billboard Hot 100. The song was considered a hip hop country crossover by many, which was a rare feat for an out Black queer artist. Lil Nas's most recent release, Call Me By Your Name or Montero, has had quite an impact in the music and pop culture world because it has images of the Garden of Eden story and engagement with the devil. I won't treat the video today, though we may come back to it another time. Instead, I want to share with you some good news. Lil Nas X wrote a letter to his past young self, and it goes like this. Dear 14-year-old Montero, I wrote a song with our name in it. It's about a guy I met last summer. I know we promised to never come out publicly. I know we promised to never be that type of gay person. I know we promised to die with this secret. But this will open doors for many other queer people to simply exist. You see, this is very scary for me. People will be angry. They will say I'm pushing an agenda. But The truth is, I am. The agenda to make people, and I've edited a bit here out of respect for our community, make people stay out of other people's lives and stop dictating who they should be. Sending you love from the future. What love will you send to your future self? This Easter, you are facing that same kind of choice. You can tell yourself and your community that what is possible isn't all that much. It's not that much. After all, you're going out of business or church or community. You can tell yourself that you can't be that kind of church that makes its mission all the way clear, all the way real, in all the way open. What will happen if everyone knows what you love all the time? Can you love the world back to life? And in doing so, add to your own thriving? Can you love more life back into this community? This love looks 1,000 ways. It looks like staying connected with people you participate with. It looks like reaching out when you could use a pastoral conversation. It looks like having decision-making conversations. It even looks like reading Chalice Chatter so you can know what's going on and can be an information connector with others. It looks like being willing to mention and share from a personal perspective what you know. But let's be clear. The building, though historical, though beloved, is not magical. The meaning comes precisely from the things that you do there, who you are there, who you continue to become there, and what things are possible from and through there. You are the beloved people that bring value to the building. You are the flame in the chalice. I am proud of all the ways you have continued growing and connecting, even through hard pandemic times. I know the difficulty has been at an intense level. One of the things that reminds me of that intensity is a snippet of a letter from romantic French novelist George Sand to realist Gustave Flaubert. Sand said, "Everyone is dying, everything is dying, and the earth is dying also, eaten up by the sun and the wind. I don't know where I get the courage to keep on living in the midst of these ruins. Let us love each other to the end." Maybe getting letters from one of the great French romantics runs the risk of that intense feeling, right? That everyone and everything is dying. But even in her great feeling, George Sand points us to a greater truth. No matter what happens next, which next we trust will be more and better and different, we are called to choose love, to choose to love one another and to love the life into one another. In a recent letter from Allies for Racial Equity to Asian and Pacific Islander members of the congregation, they offer these words. Dear BIPOC, and especially Asian American and Pacific Islander members of the First Unitarian Church of Oakland, we love you. We see you. We care a lot about you. We want you to be safe and to continue being the valuable and important members of our community that you have been for many years already. We want you to know this in any case, but it feels especially important that we tell you so now. This is some of the good news of our congregation. Ultimately, beneath what we think and say and feel, we have as a community the will to act. And that's how we'll conclude this reflection, with 2 opportunities to act. If you'd like to know more about the letter, what it means, how to sign it, and how to do so, what it means to sign it and how to do so, please do email yesplease@uuoakland.org, and we'll organize a conversation around that. The other is that in continuing to build our muscles for making our love real in the world, the Justice team has information to offer you about action teams and projects. And Steve Thomas Berger will share it with us, that information, now. I love you and happy Easter.
Yeah, recently, congregants who've been leaders in the church's justice work met to discuss how to reinvigorate justice work and to fulfill our mission of transformation beyond in Oakland, our neighborhood, and the world. To this end, we decided to further develop the idea of forming action teams. The idea is that if you as a congregant have a passion to act in service and justice in our community, that you find 4 other congregants who wish to undertake this with you, and you bring this proposal for an action team to the program council. Here's an example. Recently, we were in a discussion with the Oakland Chinatown Chamber of Commerce of what could be done to oppose and stop the violence against Asian American and Pacific Islander community. And one suggestion from the chamber was that there was a need to act as a safety patrol during pickup and drop off of children at the Lincoln School in Oakland's Chinatown. So I guess the question is, could we form an action team to take up this challenge and many other challenges? So we're going to get together to further discuss this idea of action teams at our next program council meeting. And so you should look this next week for an invitation to that program council meeting as we further consider how to reinvigorate this work and fulfill our mission. Now I welcome Janet McFarland for an invitation to generosity.
And now is the time in the service when we invite you to give of your resources, of your gifts, in keeping with your own ability, which you are the one best to know what that ability is. So I think that one of the first uses of stones might have been money also to exchange. So please imagine your stones in your hand. Take one out of your pocket, one of your money stones, and put an intention into that stone, that this stone will fulfill part of your spiritual purpose, which may be aligned with the spiritual purpose of our church. And consider how to give to the church. Now, please repeat with me our congregational commitment to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community. We dedicate ourselves, and these are our offerings.
Thank you, Janet. And now we will listen to For Everyone Born.
For everyone born.
Stefan will be extinguishing the candles now. While we watch him do that, I will give you this brief, very brief quote from George Orwell. He said, "The point is that the pleasures of spring are available to everybody and cost nothing." All right, well, now that the service has ended, you are welcome to stay on this Zoom meeting and continue into coffee hour or coffee period, which starts immediately after this service ends. And you are also invited to join us in 15 minutes or so in the first Sunday gathering, first Sunday for Racial Justice. This morning we will be watching some Black performance art and then discussing it. And again, that will start in about 15 minutes. That requires a separate link. I think that the link is posted in the chat if you need it. Otherwise, hopefully you have it available to you. And we'd love to see you there. Thank you for coming.